Welcome to Bad at Goodbyes. Each week on our show, we spotlight species from the IUCN Critically Endangered Red List. These are plants and animals with decreasing populations, nearing the edges of extinction. We'll share species, research, information, and conservation proposals, and then we'll spend a chunk of the show opening a space for contemplation and awe. We'll perform a kind of meditative soundscape of gentleness, quietude, reflection, and maybe grieving. There is a very low likelihood that any of these species will survive the 21st century. And so perhaps we might acknowledge their passage with a moment of our attention, recognition of our kinship, and with a commitment to personal and systemic change. Thank you for listening. On today's show, we consider the Florida Semaphore Cactus. The Florida Semaphore Cactus is a critically endangered flowering cactus native to southern North America, specifically the Florida Keys in the United States. Semaphore cactus is a perennial tree-like cactus that can reach heights of up to 7 feet. What we might mistake for leaves are in fact stem segments. They are these flattened, oblong, bright green pads that grow up to 16 inches long and are held at right angles to the ground. These segments give the cactus its common name as they are reminiscent of railroad semaphore flags. One can almost imagine the cactus waving to us. Pads are covered in areolas, which are these small raised bumps from which the cactus's spines emerge. Spines are numerous, hair-like, and pinkish in color. They can grow to over 5 inches long and serve as a means of protection for the plant. The Semaphore cactus produces large, showy blooms that have fleshy outer tepals and red inner tepals that can reach approximately 1 inch in length. Tepals are a circular arrangement of floral growth that radiates from the plant instead of petals. Flowering occurs year-round, with peak season from December through April. The flowers emit a scent reminiscent of rotting meat, which attracts pollinators, and then, once fertilized, produces a small, yellow, berry-like, egg-shaped fruit. Florida Semaphore cactus reproduces both sexually and asexually. It is dioecious, meaning the male and female reproductive organs are on separate individuals. And so, though its flowers have vestiges of both organs, some cacti are functionally male, some are functionally female, and it cannot self-pollinate. Sexual reproduction occurs when the flowers attract pollinators, specifically ants, who feed on and spread reproductive material, the pollen, from the stamen on male plants to the stigma on female plants. Upon successful pollination, the flowers develop into fruits containing seeds. That's these yellow berries. Seeds have been observed to begin to germinate, so to sprout, while still inside the fruit after it falls off the plant. This unique adaptation helps the seedlings avoid drying out during dry periods. And the seeds themselves are also encased in a structure called a funiculus, which seems to slow down germination. This delay is beneficial as it takes about 4 months for these seeds to sprout. This allows them to avoid germinating during dry months. That said, seed production in the semaphore cactus is relatively rare, and the viability of the seeds is often low. When scientists collected seeds in the wild and planted them in captivity, they were able to grow, but there have been no observed new seedlings in their natural habitat. And so scientists believe that their more common reproduction method is asexual. This is also called vegetative propagation. So those stem segments, the pads, the green wavy flags, can detach from the parent plant and root in the ground, establishing new individuals. This clonal reproduction leads to genetically identical plants, and the cactus will form small colonies of parent and pup. Pup is the adorable term for these asexually reproduced offspring, though it's also called offsets by less delightful botanists. The Florida Semaphore Cactus is native to a very specific and limited habitat in the Florida Keys, on Little Torch Key and Swan Key. This habitat is characterized by a tropical maritime climate with high humidity, abundant sunshine, and average annual temperatures ranging between 70 and 85 degrees Fahrenheit. The region experiences a distinct wet and dry season, with the majority of rainfall occurring from June to October, seeing approximately 40 inches of rain annually. These island landscapes are primarily rocky limestone substrate beneath a thin layer of humus. Humus is this dark organic soil matter formed by the decomposition of plants and animals. It's really rich in nutrients, and it retains moisture. And so the semaphore cactus grows in these rock barrens, on exposed rock surfaces, in crevices, or within small pockets of this soil. This landscape is an ecotone between stands of freshwater hardwood trees and saltwater mangrove swamps. Ecotone just means the transition area between two biomes where two ecological communities meet and kind of cross-integrate. It is quite near sea level. It's relatively flat, with slight elevation changes near the coastline. The semaphore cactus's ecotone is rich with biodiversity, supporting mangrove, crocodile, salt couch grass, buttonwood, green iguana, beach apple, land snails, great white heron, spoonbill, spiders, sea grape, and butterflies. And of course, many, many more. In the dream, it is the soft light of morning. And in the dream, the waves perform their forever circular geometry. They seem to have a question for me. They draw nearer and nearer, whisper louder and louder. It is the same question the moth asks, and the human, and the hurricane. For whom do you wait, they wonder. I don't know. In the dream, I don't know. The range and population of the Florida Semaphore cactus has been substantially reduced by human development. It once thrived throughout the Florida Keys, and scientists believe it may have even held purchase on the mainland. Now, due to decades of human intrusion through housing, road, and recreational development, it survives only in 2 small isolated populations on Swan Key and Little Torch Key. The population on Little Torch Key was significantly threatened by poachers until it was protected by the Nature Conservancy in 1988. So now the most immediate threat to the remaining populations are a non-native human-introduced invasive moth species that eats the cacti. Human-generated pollution and the effects of human-induced climate change also challenge the cacti. Increased hurricane activity and sea level rise due to global warming risk overtaking the cactus with salt water. Conservationists also report continued poaching and even vandalism by humans, of course. The species' low population and reproductive strategy presents a long-term hurdle. Throughout the second half of the 20th century, the semaphore cactus population on Little Torch Key was reduced by poachers stealing and selling the plants for rare ornamental gardens. This results in a small population of genetically similar individuals. So let's do a quick sidebar on genetics and sexual reproduction. I'm totally simplifying here, but in general, for most plants and animals, offspring are roughly half female and half male. But the process is in fact random. It is mostly a random recombination of chromosomes. And so with the semaphore cactus, the random assigning of gender over recent generations, coupled with the additional stressors we mentioned before, has resulted in the current population on Little Torch Key believed to be all male. And so all of its offspring are produced asexually and are genetically identical. Remember, they can't self-pollinate. So this is like the end of their evolutionary journey. This is an immediate issue because some of this population is suffering from root rot due to fungal infestation. So the current population is not adapted to combat this infestation, and all future generations are vulnerable because they are genetically identical. And so natural selection here is like thwarted, and the species is incapable of developing the kind of random genetic mutation that might result in an adaptation that can protect or like fight off the infestation in future generations. And so we might think like, well, that's evolution. Some species succeed, others do not. But in this case, it's like clearly not true natural selection. It's not real evolutionary competition because humans have put our opposable thumbs on the scale. Okay, and so the short version of all of that, human-induced genetic bottleneck leads to an inability to sexually reproduce viable offspring, which results in an inability to adapt to new stressors, which will likely lead to extinction. The Florida Semaphore Cactus does have international legal protection, and all of the known populations are within protected wildlife areas. The Florida Semaphore Cactus was placed on the critically endangered red list in 2013. Their population is currently in decline. Our most recent counts estimate that less than 500 individual Florida Semaphore cactus remain in the wild. Research for today's show was compiled from the IUCN, PBS, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Journal of Sexual Plant Reproduction, and Wikipedia. So in a moment, I would like to perform some music in hopes of opening a space to be in contemplation with the broad array of other lives with whom we share our earth. But first I want to state explicitly that this music isn't for the semaphore cactus. Instead, I want this music to express my own human awe and be a space, a means to consider my own relationship with all other life, and specifically life like the Florida Semaphore cactus that nears the end of its journey. So I will hold that thought. I will sit in a space of sound and awe and contemplation, and I warmly invite you to join me. I honor the life force of the Florida Semaphore Cactus. I commit to carrying its name, its human name, in my record. I'm grateful to have shared time on our small, bright planet with this being, and I lament the ways in which I and my species have harmed and diminished this species. And so, in the name of the Florida Semaphore Cactus, I pledge to reduce my consumption and to reduce my carbon footprint and to curb my wastefulness. I pledge to acknowledge and attempt to address the costs of my actions and my inactions. And I pledge to resist the harm of any kin or their habitat by corporations and governments. I pledge my song to the witness and memory of all life, to a broad celebration of biodiversity, and to the total liberation of all beings. This has been Bad at Goodbyes. Thank you for listening. Till next time, let's take care of each other and all of our kin.